What if your perfect Valentine's dinner turned into a deadly nightmare? Hard Eyes 2025 is a romantic comedy horror directed by Josh Rubin. What starts as a sweet evening for a couple soon spirals into a blood-soaked game of survival when a twisted serial killer crashes their date. With an IMDb rating of 6.1 stars out of 10, the film dives into a twisted blend of love and terror that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Before we dive into the creepy details, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more spine-tingling recaps. All right, turn down the lights. It's time to meet Hard Eyes. The movie starts with a couple, Patrick and Adeline, enjoying a romantic moment when Patrick gets down on one knee and proposes. Adeline happily says yes, but Patrick gets upset when the photographer he hired, Nico, calls to say the photo didn't come out right because of sun flares. Nico asks him to propose again. Annoyed, Patrick yells at Nico to get it right this time. Patrick proposes to Adeline again and calls Nico, but before Patrick can say anything, Adeline grabs the phone, and in that moment, Patrick is suddenly shot in the head with an arrow. He dies instantly. Adeline screams and runs, hiding in some bushes. While hiding, she gets a call from Patrick's phone. When she answers, she realizes it's the killer, and she angrily tells him he picked the wrong bride to mess with, but the killer finds her and shoots her in the ankle. Hurt, Adeline limps away as the killer chases her. She reaches the winery building and begs a security guard for help, but before he can react, the killer throws a knife, hitting the guard and killing him. Terrified, Adeline runs and hides inside a large metal tank. After a while, she carefully tries to peek out, but the killer grabs her by the neck. She quickly slams the tank door shut, forcing him to let go. The killer then locks her inside the tank, which turns out to be a grape press machine. He switches it on, and it crushes her to death. We then finally see the killer. He is wearing a mask with heart-shaped eyes. In the next scene, several news channels talk about a serial killer on the loose. They call him the Heart Eyes Killer. He mainly targets couples, but he doesn't think twice about killing anyone who gets in his way. People are being warned to be extra careful and stay indoors because today is Valentine's Day. In the next scene, a girl named Allie McCabe is sitting in a coffee shop with her best friend, Monica. Allie is feeling stressed because her boss called an emergency meeting where she has to present her ad campaign. While picking up her coffee, Allie meets a handsome and friendly stranger named Jay Simmons. They both order the same drink and smile at the coincidence. As they start chatting, Allie accidentally drops a packet of sugar. When they both bend down to pick it up, they bump heads. Allie accidentally gives Jay a bloody nose. Embarrassed, Allie quickly leaves the coffee shop. At work, Allie and Monica's boss, Crystal Kane, gets mad at Allie for her idea for a perfume ad. The ad shows famous doomed couples like Romeo and Juliet, Jack and Rose, and Bonnie and Clyde. With all the Hard Eyes murders happening, people online think the ad is very inappropriate and are leaving lots of negative comments. To fix the problem, Crystal brings in Jay, who turns out to be the same guy Allie met at the coffee shop. Jay assures everyone that he and Allie will work together to fix the situation. In the next scene, Detective Zeke Hobbs and Janine Shaw arrive at the winery to investigate the murders of Patrick and Adeline. While looking around the crime scene, they find a wedding ring with the initials JS on it, which doesn't match either of the victims. The detectives also find the photographer's last photo, which shows the masked killer during the attack. Janine thinks that Heart Eyes is acting out some dark fantasy through his murders. Later, Allie is in the restroom reading all the negative comments about the ad campaign. Just then, Jay shows up outside the stall and says he needs to talk to her. When Allie comes out, Jay tells her he made a dinner reservation for tonight so they can go over the ad campaign. Allie tries to say no because it's Valentine's Day and suggests they meet tomorrow instead. But Jay explains he has a flight in the morning to go to his best friend's wedding, so it has to be tonight. In the evening, Allie arrives at the restaurant first. Jay shows up soon after, wearing a suit that impresses her. While they talk about the ad campaign, Jay suddenly asks Allie if she had her heart broken recently, saying it might explain her campaign idea. The question offends Allie, and she tells Jay to mind his own business. She then starts insulting him and even asks why he's still single. Hurt by her words, Jay gets up and walks out of the restaurant. Allie runs after Jay feeling sorry and then suddenly kisses him when she spots her ex-boyfriend Colin having dinner with his new girlfriend, Sienna, for Valentine's Day. To make Colin jealous, Allie introduces Jay as her boyfriend, and Jay goes along with it. Colin is surprised and mentions they were supposed to go on a double date with another couple who were sadly killed at the winery. Later, Allie and Jay get into an Uber to head home. not knowing someone wearing a hard-eye mask is secretly watching them. Soon they arrive at Allie's place, and she apologizes to Jay for how the night went before getting out of the car. As she checks her bag, she realizes her keys are missing. Seeing this, Jay gets out too and tells the driver to wait. He then helps Allie by breaking a window to get them inside, cutting his hand in the process. Allie then helps clean and treat his wound. Then Allie notices her personal things laid out on the bed. She quickly and quietly tries to hide them in the closet, but suddenly...
Your jokes are cheesy as
Jay jumps in to fight him, but the killer tries to stab Jay. Allie quickly grabs a lamp and hits the killer with it. They both run out the door and use a belt to keep it shut. Then they rush outside to the cab, but find the driver has been killed by the killer. Allie tries to tell the killer they're not a couple, and he's got the wrong people. Jay pulls out his phone to call 911, but the killer shoots it with an arrow. Then Jay and Allie run into an empty, strange place to hide. The killer catches up and grabs Allie, trying to attack her. Jay steps in to help, but the killer overpowers him and knocks him out. Allie takes the chance to run, so Hard Eyes leaves Jay behind and starts chasing her. Allie runs and ends up at an amusement park. She hides inside a carousel, but the killer suddenly turns it on and makes it spin faster. Allie falls down, but manages to stand up again. The killer sneaks up behind her and tries to attack, but Allie kicks him hard, knocking him off the carousel. She jumps off too and tries to run. Just as the killer is about to catch her, a police car arrives, and the Hard Eyes killer vanishes into the night. Allie tells the officer what happened and starts to worry about Jay. Just then, the officer gets a message on the radio saying the killer has been caught. Soon, detectives Zeke and Janine arrive and ask Allie to explain everything. Then Allie sees that Jay has been arrested and rushes to him. Jay is angry because he thinks Allie left him behind when he was unconscious. Allie tells him she didn't leave him, she was hiding from the killer. She tells the detectives that Jay isn't Heart Eyes, but Zeke says Jay is a suspect because they found him with a Heart Eyes mask and a crossbow. Then Janine tells Allie they think Jay didn't act alone, which makes them suspicious of Allie too. At the police station, Zeke shows Jay the wedding ring found at the winery. It has the initials JS, which matches Jay Simmons, but Jay says he has nothing to do with it. This makes Zeke more aggressive and suspicious. Janine tells Zeke to step out so she can keep questioning Jay alone. But instead of being tough, she starts flirting with him and asks about his relationship with Allie, saying it looks like he really cares about her. Meanwhile, Allie is still at the station, saying they arrested the wrong guy. She keeps asking for updates, which annoys the officer, so she heads to the interrogation room. While waiting, a man named David walks in to fix a computer. He tells Allie she looks familiar and asks if they matched on Bumble. Allie says no, and when he tries to ask her out, she firmly turns him down. Back in the interrogation room, Janine asks Jay if he was in Boston in February 2023 and Philadelphia in February 2024, places where Heart Eyes had killed before. Jay admits he was in those cities, but says it was for freelance work since he travels a lot. He insists he's not the killer. Soon after, another officer comes in and tells Janine that Allie is waiting outside. Janine meets Allie outside and asks why the Heart Eyes killer is after them, since they're not even a real couple. Allie says maybe the killer saw them kiss. She only did it to make her ex jealous. Janine then asks if Allie has any romantic feelings for Jay, saying he's good-looking and successful. Suddenly, the power goes out. Janine goes to check on Jay, while another officer goes to grab a flashlight. But as she turns the corner, Heart Eyes appears and stabs her from behind with a flagpole. She runs into the hallway and tells Janine that Heart Eyes is there. Janine stays to deal with him while Allie runs. Zeke hears the noise and leaves Jay handcuffed in the room to check what's going on. He calls out for Janine but gets no answer. Then Heart Eyes appears and stabs Zeke, killing him. Next, Allie runs into the interrogation room and finds Jay still trapped inside. Jay begs her to find Zeke and get the handcuff keys to free him. When she doesn't answer right away,
Allie! She ditched me.
But then, Heart Eyes comes into the room and tries to stab Jay. Jay dodges him as best he can. Suddenly, Allie returns with a gun and shoots at Heart Eyes, forcing him to run. She then rushes to Jay and finally unlocks his handcuffs. Soon Allie and Jay leave the police station and end up at a drive-in theater where lots of couples are watching a movie. Soon, some people notice Heart Eyes walking around but think he's just someone in costume. Out of nowhere, the killer stabs a random man in his path. Allie and Jay quickly hide inside a nearby car where a couple is making out in the back seat. Allie tries to warn them, but they're too high to understand what's going on. Suddenly, Hard Eyes opens the car door and shoves a large cross into the man's mouth, killing him. He then grabs the girl and forces her onto the same cross, killing her too. Panic breaks out at the theater as people scream and run. Allie and Jay take off, trying to get away while Hard Eyes follows them, killing more people in his path. Jay tells Allie they need to run, but Allie feels guilty, thinking it's their fault the killer came there. Allie says they should stop the killer before he hurts anyone else. So she and Jay get his attention, making him come after them. They grab a weapon from one of the people the killer already attacked. When the killer charges at them, they dodge his attack. Jay fights him, but Hard Eyes is too strong and knocks Jay down, about to finish him off. Just in time, Allie hits the killer in the head with a propane tank. The killer is hurt but manages to grab Allie by the neck. Then Jay grabs the killer's own weapon and stabs him, finally killing him. After that, Allie and Jay take off the killer's mask.
What the fuck is that?
I have no idea.
The police soon arrive to take the body. An officer tells them they'll be famous for being the ones who finally stopped Hard Eyes. Later, Jay asks Allie to come to his hotel room before his flight so they can finish their dinner date. But Allie is still shaken by everything that happened and says no. Just then, Janine shows up and offers Jay a ride home, and he agrees. When Allie gets home, she thinks about her time with Jay. Then she gets a call from Monica, who's worried about her. Allie tells her everything, including how she may have ruined things with Jay. Monica tells her not to give up and encourages her to go after him. Allie listens, and right away she heads to the airport. She searches the airport for Jay, but can't find him anywhere. Then Allie gets a call from an unknown number. The caller says they have Jay and gives her an address. He warns her not to call the police or Jay will die. Allie hears Jay screaming in the background, which terrifies her. In the next scene, Allie arrives at the address and finds Jay tied up. Hard Eyes is still alive. When he takes off his mask, Allie is shocked to see it's David, the guy she met at the police station. She asks who the person was they killed at the drive-in. David tells her it was Eli. When she asks if they were a couple, David says no. They were actually a throuple. In a shocking twist, Janine shows up, and it's revealed that she is also one of the Hard Eyes killers and David's wife. Together, they enjoy hunting and killing couples in love as part of their twisted obsession. They explain that they are the real Hard Eyes killers, and Eli was just a fanboy obsessed with them. They also reveal who did what. Janine was the one who broke into Allie's house, and David was the one who killed the cab driver. Janine says the wedding ring found at the winery was hers, with the initials JS standing for Janine Shaw. Hearing all this, Allie asks why they're even targeting her and Jay, since they're not actually a couple. Janine says they were planning to kill a different couple, but changed their minds after seeing Allie and Jay's passionate kiss. She then tells Allie to take a gun from the table to prove she doesn't love Jay. Janine says there's only one bullet, so Allie must choose, shoot herself or shoot Jay. With no other choice, Allie picks up the gun and, with tears in her eyes, tells Jay she loves him. Jay begs her not to shoot herself. At the last second, Allie shoots Jay in the shoulder, but the bullet passes through and hits Janine in the stomach. Allie quickly helps Jay, but David starts firing at them. He grabs Jay and drags him away. Meanwhile, Janine catches up to Allie and starts hitting her. David laughs and tells Jay he's going to make him watch Allie die. But Jay secretly grabs an arrow from David's pocket and stabs him in the eye. David screams in pain and falls onto a table full of candles, causing the hot wax to burn him alive. Janine sees this and, furious, punches Allie to the ground and gets ready to finish her. But then Allie grabs her metal straw and stabs Janine in the neck. She then pushes Janine into a statue, and the statue's sword goes straight through her neck. Janine hangs there in pain for a moment before the sword fully slices off her head. Afterward, Allie runs to Jay, but David, still alive, starts crawling toward them. Jay quickly grabs the crossbow and shoots him, finally killing him and ending the terror of the Hard Eyes killers. The scene then shifts to 1 year later. Allie and Jay are now a happy couple, celebrating their anniversary at the same drive-in where they were once chased by the killer. To Jay's surprise, Allie pulls out a ring and proposes to him. Jay smiles and says yes. The movie ends. And that's the terrifying roller coaster of Hard Eyes. So what do you think? Was this just a bloody thriller, or a reminder that sometimes the biggest danger comes from the people watching us when we least expect it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked this killer recap, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more spine-chilling stories, movie breakdowns. Until next time, Stay safe, trust no one, and maybe skip the date nights this Valentine's. Because love doesn't always come with flowers. Sometimes it comes with a crossbow.